And we are recording. Hey, welcome to
Hey,
Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards.
and I'm Merle Garrison.
And we just talk about things that improve our lives after the age of 50, things that we could do to improve our existing careers or start new careers of passion. We lead into metaphysical, current events, and politics, and not always in that order. Merle, what were we just talking about?
We were talking about opening up Ohio.
Yeah, the COVID thing. So
Yeah.
Ohio is starting to open up. I have been expecting all along that this will go faster and faster than ever predicted or said, because we always are, when anything, it comes to anything medical, we always err to the side of caution and bad news. So I expect things to start going, well, for instance, the Cleveland Clinic was, like everybody else, they were scared to death that they were going to get overwhelmed, that everyone predicted that we would have the hospitals would be swarmed and overloaded. They took over an old educational building across the street from the main campus, retrofitted it with all the medical equipment and 1,000 beds, and never used one of them.
Yeah.
Think of the waste of that money.
Oh, I know.
I know.
You're seeing that all over.
Glad that we're prepared. We were prepared. Better be over prepared than under prepared. But I'm just saying, that's why I think that I think things are going to go rather quickly from here.
I think the big problem with COVID-19 was the fear mongering. I think that was our biggest obstacle. I mean, look, we know people, lots of people have died from this already. Lots of people have gotten this. That it's a terrible thing, and my heart goes out to anybody that has to deal with this. I've got a friend of mine that lost her mother, who was in a nursing home just this past week. It's terrible, but at the same time, it seems to me that the big deal that we've had to really deal with is the fear part of this.
Definitely.
And for instance, Barry, they're talking about meat, and there's a big meat shortage out there, and I'm telling you, man, don't mess with my meat. I'm not a vegetarian, man. I mean, if you want to start a civil war, you take my meat away. That's going to cost me. I'll want to fight over that.
Something has to die in order for me to live this day.
Well, if you're a vegetarian, you got to kill the vegetable too. I mean, something's got to die. So
I heard
meat, man.
Even if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, an expert was on Rogan's podcast a while back ago, and they were talking about this. The amount of wildlife that dies when you plow through a field to get your crops is like staggering. Billions.
What? How does that?
Oh, squirrels, rabbits, ferrets. Everything that is in all of the vegetation.
The non-essential animals.
Yeah, the stuff you're not going to eat and you're just throwing away,
Right.
So there's that. Hey, I wanted to bring up, you shared with me a special thing. I want to send out a special thanks to Tim Newman, account manager at Bacon Management. He gave us one hell of a testimonial. And I put it on the front of the website, on the homepage. So I spent this evening, a few nights ago, putting together the TAC so that we can now, anybody can leave reviews for us right on our webpage. And I think the latest one will feed into the front of the webpage and be featured. And so right now you can see Tim's there. And I actually wanted you to read it, Merle, but I didn't have you prepared, so I don't know if you have it in front of you. It came to you.
It did come to me.
It was very moving. And so I want to encourage anyone that is inclined, please leave a review right on our website. When you see the review, which is right underneath of our latest video, our latest podcast, you will see the summary of reviews. And we currently have a 5-star rating, mind you. And you will see Tim's there, and you'll see a button that says leave your review. Click on that. It'll take you to the page where you can fill it out.
Well, I got it pulled up here. Here's what Tim said. He says, I've been a watcher of this fabulous show since inception, and it keeps getting better and better. the sync between Barry and Merle is seamless in conversation, and the broad range of topics keeps me fully engaged from beginning to end. Well done, and keep them coming.
That's powerful. So we asked if we could
Thank you.
post it, and yeah, he was very agreeable with that. So yeah, thanks a bunch, Tim. Anybody else want to give us a shout out? Please do. And as I always say, you can leave comments on our YouTube channel, on our over 50 startingover.com page, website, and anywhere else. So give us a 5-star rating on our podcast too. More of you actually listen to it than take it in via the video. So what I also wanted to talk about is, let's see.
Wait, are we done talking about the Ohio thing? Because I had some questions on that. You guys are so progressive over there. Totally different here in California now.
Tell me, because I don't know where you guys are at right now.
Oh, God. I'm telling you. Well, first of all, our thing is supposed to be lifted on the 15th as well, but there's a lot of doubts about whether or not that's going to happen. There's been this whole big thing about the beaches and a whole political thing about that, and it's just not looking good out here in California. We've got all kinds of politics revolving around this, and there's no one saying, "Oh, we're going to open this up after the 15th." They're talking about extending it even through July. We don't know if that's going to happen or not out here. But
the economy would absolutely crash. We're already, got questions going on out the wazoo that we need to answer. Could you really imagine that?
No, it's actually
infuriating.
It's oppressive. I mean, it's depressing to think about something like that, and it's petty as well. I mean, there's so many. I understand we want to protect people, but to shut down your economy so that just like this woman in Dallas who was trying to open up her salon, she was saying, "Wait a second. What do you mean I'm being selfish? I'm trying to feed my kids." I mean, people are in that situation. But I wanted to know, in Ohio, does that mean, really people are going to get to go back to work on Monday? Is that really the case?
Very controlled. So from what I understand, that's supposed to be a 3-phase opening, and this is phase 1. So my dental client, as a matter of fact, Lisa went to see my dental client for the first time today. They have a holistic dental practice, they're fantastic. I just love them. I know Lisa is going to love being there. So it's places like dentists. They were debating about hairstylists, whatever you call those places.
Right.
And but that's not happening yet. I think that's just too intimate. Certainly not the restaurants and bars yet. I think I don't know. I just don't pay that much attention to it. Right?
Gotcha.
Been just dodging the news for the most part, other than the flyover on the morning news, and that's about it. So dentist stuff. The medical practices are now seeing the elective surgery patients and things like that. I don't know much out of that. I think somebody told me that the NFL said that they are going to resume the season.
Wow.
Whether it's with fans or not. I think I'm right.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It is for me.
For America.
I'm excited about it. I told you that if we weren't going to have a season, I was going to rewatch one game every Sunday, the Browns 1987 season, but it'll be corona'd at the end. It'll be shortened right at the end, right after the
Corona,
after the AFC divisional game, so we don't see that last horrific thing that we replay on ESPN every year for all these years. Are two different back-to-back. Oh, it was the
drive and the fumble.
And the fumble. Look at you. You know them right off the top of your
head. No, I still have nightmares about
it. Speaking of nightmares, what the heck? Oh, when I was working on putting that review software on our website just the other night. And it went right up till bedtime. And it's always terrible to mess with tech right up to bedtime. I had the weirdest dreams all night. It was you and I were.
Oh, I was in there.
Yes, we were. It was O5O the whole, all night. It was exhausting. So it was okay, the earlier stuff, I couldn't remember that well. But it was kind of like we were driving around the country or something, and we'd have to, it's like, so we had these plugins on our phone or something that we had to answer these questions in certain periods of time. It was, it was kind of like me trying to get that software working right, which was very frustrating. But it ended at, and I remember because I woke up to this at like 4:30 in the morning, and I just laid there thinking about it. So it ended at a race in a river. I am not, so a foot race in a river. We were lining up. It was like a creek / river. It was like 20 feet wide. And there were all these rocks in this river. And you were lined up over there to my left somewhere. And everybody else in between us. We're going to have this race. And it was like, oh, and then all of a sudden there's this like dog or something. What's in the water there? And it was kind of like a cross between a puppy and an otter. And it was really cute, but it was in the way. We didn't want to squish it. So we got it out of the way. See, this is a totally bizarre dream.
No kidding.
And then we're lining up again and somebody's going 3, 2, and this guy rushes in and jumps like in front of me to line up. And I'm like, dude, what do you think you're doing? There's no other room. There's no other room. And I was pissed. Like, so he thinks he's going to line up 2 feet in front of me. And that's when I woke up and I'm like, whoa, what a night. What a night.
You know, it's funny. My brother has been telling me, you should look these up. I've been having a bunch of weird dreams lately too. If you go on Google and put in, race in a river with a puppy otter, something's going to come up and tell you, that means that you're going to come into a boatload of money or something.
Oh, perfect. Well, I don't have to look it up.
That's what it means. You know what? It's weird that you have that dream. I had a dream last night that this puppy, it was a puppy. It was a little black puppy. It was in my dream, and I remember saying in my dream, it picked me as its person.
Oh, yeah.
And I was carrying it back to, I was going to show him to Anne Marie and say, I hope she likes this puppy because this puppy picked me. And that's pretty much all I can remember. But I was telling Anne Marie about that this morning, and she says, if we get a puppy right now, we'll have that puppy until we're like 70.
Oh my!
What?
Oh my!
That is crazy. She had to remind me how old I am, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to think about that.
Wow. You know what's interesting about what you said? I wasn't thinking about it. The other day, I went on petfinder.com, which I don't do very often. But there was, and Lisa and I, when we adopted Lainey, our beautiful little beagle,
right?
She was 6 years old.
Dog.
Yeah, sweetest thing in the world, absolutely gorgeous. She was already 6 years old, and we adopted her from a rescue outfit we do a little bit of pro bono work for, called Maryland's Voice in Mentor, Ohio, and they're fantastic, a great outfit. I help them any way that I can. But so we've been without a dog for over 2 years now. And first year, forget about it. There was no way we could.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, dude, I go on Pet Finder the other day, and there's a dead ringer for Lainey, and who lost her owner, 11 years old though. And I sent that information on to Lisa, and she's like, "Oh my God!" And she's like, "Well, better inquire about it." And I did. And 24 hours later, it took a while, they did respond back and said, yeah, absolutely no health issues. She's really well behaved. A real lady. Asked if she barked or howled. No, she doesn't, but it'd be cute if she did. So she sounds perfect. I think we might have Lainey's mother or something on tap here very soon. So we would only have a few years with her, and it'd be the challenging ones, but we just feel strongly she's not going to have another opportunity that she deserves like that.
I agree. I mean, this is such a tough thing. Anne Marie and I were just talking about this today because we talked about the 70 thing, and I was like, well, we adopted Stella, my dog that passed away last year. She was 5. So we had her for 10 years, and we were talking, well, maybe we could do that and we wouldn't have the dog for as long. But then I just remember how it was. I kept thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do when this dog dies? And it was daunting. And, you get a dog that's 11, and man, that's coming up. I mean, let's face it, that's
she
come
will
up quickly.
Wrap herself around our hearts immediately, and we'll only have a few years with her. We know that.
tried to fool myself the last time about that. Like, I don't get too close to the dog, it's gonna die. And man, that lasted for a whole 3 days.
Yeah, man. You fell hard and deep for Stella, that's for sure.
Still, I mean, like you said, the first year, forget about it. No, we came up on our first anniversary, a month ago. And boy, I still have dreams about her. In fact, that puppy in my dream looked a lot like Stella. So it's the same kind of thing, it's boy.
Well, I'll tell you, Merle, I'm dead serious. It's been about 8 years since Bowser passed, my boxer shepherd husky mix. Right. And
as a heck of a dog.
He was amazing. Totally different from Laney. He was just totally self-sufficient, super smart. Like he knew everything I was saying. And
feisty as all get out.
I miss him as much now as I did. After the first year or so, you level out. You'll never stop hurting or miss. I've stayed right there. When I really think about him, I get all choked up again because he was really special. And
he was.
I would do anything to have it. You didn't know him at the end of his life. And I'm so happy that Lisa got a chance to meet him and know him for a few years. She called him the Frank Sinatra of dogs because he was so cool. And she would say that if we were all downstairs, and I'd be like, okay, too much information here, but I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom type of thing, go upstairs, go to the bathroom. He would go, this is what Lisa would tell me, he would go over and sit at the bottom of the stairs until he heard that I was starting to come downstairs. Then he'd go back over by the couch and act like he wasn't. He was so cool. He was so cool. I just told Lisa this story the other day that he and I got him. He was from the APL. He was a tiny puppy, super tiny. And he turned into this wolf, and,
right.
But we had a period of time in the middle there for a long time where we took each other for granted. Like he used to sleep with me every night. And then for a long period in the middle there, he had just, I don't feel like getting up and going upstairs kind of thing. And I'm like, whatever. Well, shortly thereafter, and he was probably about 9 years old or so. He passed at 13. But at about 9 years old, I took him to the vet and found out that he had a certain kind of leukemia, and which he was always invulnerable. I mean, this dog was tough. And so that was, oh my God, that just bothered me to no end. But he never not came up. We never not slept together since then.
Oh,
That's
boy.
That's when dogs sense. Dogs have that sixth sense, and they know right there, man, I had this big void going on. I was hurting. And so from then on, we always slept together.
That's the thing. It wasn't about him. It was about you.
It is with dogs.
He was like, Barry's hurting. And
they fill the void, man. That's what I always said too about dogs. You've probably noticed this. After your dog passes and you're without a dog and you go and meet a friend's dog or something, they are all about you. They sense that void. They sense that void.
Yeah, they are. You're right about that.
Absolutely.
Now, I wanted to call your attention. When you and I were in college and we lived in that crazy house at Kevin Titmus's dad's house.
Yes.
We had Seagrams, that German Shepherd. No, that was not anything like these experiences at all. That dog hated me.
Yeah, he was.
He hated me. That dog bit me every chance he got. I couldn't believe how afraid I was of that dog. I mean, he was menacing.
Well, he was unfortunately a young puppy growing up in a testosterone-filled animal house. I don't know. You just aren't going to come out well-adjusted going into that at a young age.
I was just telling my brother who was he was talking about how he went to pet the dog and the dog casually put his mouth on his forearm, and then it was just like he was twisting a vice, like it was getting tighter and tighter slowly. And I was like, that dog was so mean. The dog was mean first, okay? And then he lived with like 8 other guys who who only could respond back with meanness. It was just escalated into this dog is like the Terminator dog.
He didn't have the best owner either.
It was unfortunate for him, but I can remember trying to sneak into the house so that the dog wouldn't know that I was there, because man, he'd follow. I lived in the basement. He'd follow me down in the basement. I'd have to run into my room and close the door, and I'd hear him like bump his head into the door. I remember also like waking up in the morning and there was the dog in my room and being afraid to get out of my bed.
You just see two eyes in the dark.
Oh my God, there he is.
Oh, too funny. Yeah, you got in late into the animal house and got regulated to the basement.
Yes,
that was too funny, and that's how I met
that was
you.
The safest place to be, though, because the dog hardly ever went down there. I was actually glad to be down in the bunker.
Yeah, out there in hiding.
Right.
All right, I want to finish up the O5O segment pretty quick.
Okay.
We got all kinds of crap we could talk about. Good, fun stuff. And as usual, way more than we'll ever get to.
Right.
But, I'm right back on with another client doing stuff similar to what I was saying last week, and that is helping her put some online classes, workshops on a website. And I just hooked up the e-commerce end of it today. But it's, once again, people, you got to start thinking like this. What kind of supplemental stuff can you put on your website? Make your website work for you, and so that you can work more virtually and get released from the whole one-on-one in-person thing as much as possible. There's never a substitute for meeting someone face-to-face, but there's much more available to us to do online and to automate. So I wanted to mention that. And then another thing I wanted to mention to you guys, just if it helps anyone out, there is, I hate to say it, an AARP article about 19 work-at-home jobs currently available. So I can leave that in the show notes for you, but you could just Google it and it'll come right up. 19 jobs you could do without leaving the house. And briefly, and you could chime in anywhere you want, Merle, if anything sounds interesting, or if anything sounds funny, because this one sounds funny. Number one, teacher. I know a lot of teachers have gone online and during this time. And you know what? That's gonna take a hold a lot more. And I think it's overdue.
Big time.
Yeah, I think it's overdue. Telehealth nurse, transcriptionist, consultant. Well, that covers a lot of ground. Consultant. And that's what I work with mostly, is consultants. Bookkeeper, virtual assistant, if you want to make no money for a lot of work. Focus group participant. That's interesting. Stay at home and do some experimental drugs or something and lose your hair and get some boils on your skin. Number 8.
I don't know if that's what they're talking about right there.
Well, that's what I thought of immediately.
Okay. Well, wait, I noticed also that the average hourly pay is from $1 to $75 an hour. I'm thinking, what is the $1 job? I hope it's not the one you just mentioned.
Press 1 or 2. Thank you. Yeah.
$1 an hour. Come on.
All right. Number 8, translator. 9, mock juror. I wonder how you do that. 10, writer. That's vague. Writer. Of course, most of us do a lot of writing. 11, customer service representative. Yuck. 12, negotiator. So if you got a hostage situation going on across the street.
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. Call the neighbor. Do we got him on the line? All right. Talk about the ledge.
I got to say, each one of these, though, if you dig into it, this is pretty interesting stuff here, Barry. Okay. And I find it extremely valuable to our audience, because each one of it doesn't just say negotiator. There's actually a click where you could click who's hiring. This Path One group, if you dwell into it, and it talks about the pay rate between $17 and $25. Now, I was thinking the same negotiator. Maybe I could do that. But this is negotiating bills.
Like, I thought it was
people want to. Yeah, well, it's sort of the same thing, It's like you're a hostage. Right. There's what? I give $1,000, so you feel like a hostage. But and so you have to negotiate billing between, and then I was like, oh, that sounds terrible. I don't
Oh,
want
it sounds horrible.
Yeah. Whew.
You know
Yeah.
what, though, now that you mention it, right now, coming off the end of this COVID thing,
Well, I bet there's a lot of that.
huge
Yeah.
demand for that. People
Yep.
negotiating their credit card debt and crap.
Right.
All right. So the next one, SEO specialist, says search engine optimization. That's something I do a lot. Easier said than done. All right. There's a lot to do there. Claims investigator. How do you do that from home? I mean, I'm thinking claims, that's like either homeowners insurance, car insurance, you make a claim. How do you do that from your house? An investigator.
Yeah, that's probably you're probably a liaison to people that
like a customer representative.
Yeah, you're probably you're just a figurehead. You got your computer in front of you. You can dig in and get some basic information.
You're organizing the information.
I'll call you back, kind of thing.
Yeah. 15, speech language pathologist.
Yeah, that was interesting.
How is it interesting? I thought pathology was crazy stuff.
I think it's
I got
a different impression on that. I thought it was like a therapist, but you're right, pathologist.
I just looked it up.
Bad.
Science of causes and effects of diseases.
Oh,
speech
language. Okay,
it was close.
So this is like a pathologist that works with K through 12 to identify communication disorders and develop individualized education plans to address their needs. So, I don't know. I mean, look, the fact that you can talk to somebody like we're talking right now and see them, it means that you can counsel them over your computer. I mean, it is pretty amazing technology that we have.
Language.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty interesting. You can do all these things now and be at home.
How about this one? Oh, wait a minute. No, the one after. Fundraising coordinator. I don't know. That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
After this, I thought this was interesting. School psychologist. So counsel all the messed up kids remotely where you're safe. And
if you got kids in class that are remote, I mean, you could single out that one kid up in the corner of your screen and be like, we need the school psychologist.
Anyone touching you? Now, after that, sales agent, that covers a lot of ground. That covers an awful lot.
Look, one of the people that are hiring is Salesforce, actually, which is a big CRM that sales organizations use, and that's becoming a huge business.
Well, it has been forever. Salesforce has been at the top of that food chain for a long time,
and they're just getting bigger and bigger,
and probably even more important now as we're trying to do more things remotely. And the older salespeople, things like older generation is retiring, which have been resistant to doing new stuff. Oh, I'd say Salesforce has got a strong foothold in the CRM industry.
Well, let me tell you,
I mean, customer relationship management by CRM, by the way.
And I've used Salesforce for a long time in just being a salesperson myself. And there's so many different plugins to Salesforce to improve the efficiency of your business that it's almost like for a sales gig, it's an unlimited. You don't just sell them the platform. It's repeat business. It's
there's a lot of competition out there, and every CRM, you got to find the CRM that fits your business the best. Salesforce isn't going to be the best one for everybody.
Well, look, the title here is Senior Vice President of Sales. I mean,
ooh, nice.
That's pretty wild right there.
Yeah, that's
$25 an hour, though. I mean, I don't know. Senior Vice President of Sales, $25.
I think it's a little more than that.
No, that's what it's saying.
You got to be kidding me.
No, look in there. It says $25 an hour.
Oh, that's it.
I don't have time.
Yeah, finally, software engineer. And that is definitely something you can do remotely. But at the same time, I know of an engineering firm, it's very creative out here in Cleveland, that they have the coolest office ever. And they host networking events there too. So while they all have their individual space, and they have a lot of space, it's really a beautiful environment. But the creative team can go and work with the design team at any given time. They can interact as needed. And that's really important. See, a design team is the one that conceptualizes the functionality, how it, in my dreams, it would work best. And then your engineering team makes it practical, makes it a reality. And those two, it's kind of like the architect that designs your house and, oh, this, you finally agree on it, you sign off on it, you pay for it. That's the house of my dreams. Then the contractor comes in and tells you how you got to take out that window, this kind of electricity, this kind of flooring will not work, and all the reasons why. And then you're left with 75% of the house of your dreams. You know,
still not so bad.
Right. But this makes me think, software engineer, I have a friend that is working in the Hollywood movie industry out here. He is an industrial designer, and I don't remember how he got hooked up with them, but he builds sets. Like he designs sets. And so he works remotely from home all the time. And so that could be done. You do work on Hollywood movies out here in Cleveland remotely.
And I've worked with a lot of software engineers over my career, and man, what a cool job that would be. I always wished, I wish that was the brain that I had. Well, here's the deal. They get to be at home, and they love doing what they're doing. That's the thing. They're just on their computer, just tick, 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 tick. I don't know what they're doing. You know, they're getting paid a mint for doing that as well, and they come up with really cool stuff. And if you ever talk to any of them, they're always really cool guys. You know, there's women as well. I'm just saying.
It depends. You're talking.
I haven't met any uncool ones.
You're talking an intermediate point there. When you get full on engineer, oh boy, they get hard to talk to.
I don't know. I've talked to a lot of full on engineers, but you must be talking to the bogus ones.
Maybe that's it. There's a particular, they think in a very, like, I'm left-handed, right brain.
Yeah.
But I do all this techie stuff. So I usually interface well with them, but they're very right brain, very left-handed, so analytical. Yeah. Like, you know, it's black and white or nothing, or it doesn't compute, you know?
Yeah, you know what? Now that you're saying that, I've seen both kinds. You're right.
Yes.
Ones there's definitely a variety. There are the ones that can think outside the box, and I've worked with a lot of them that become a part of my sales team. And the ones that can think creatively are awesome.
That's a tough combination.
Right. But when you find it, that's pretty amazing.
We got to move along. We are 47 minutes into this.
What? Are you? No, we're not.
Is it? Am I wrong?
Yeah, we're like 36 minutes. 37.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay. Still, we got a lot to talk about. So, Lisa comes busting into my room a few days ago. Oh, it's Sunday. I can tell you it's Sunday because she gets up at like 4 a.m. on a Sunday and does her exercise bike and things like that. I'm sleeping. Yeah.
4 a.m.
She is always got to be on the go. Yeah, maybe 4:30. Cut her some slack.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. And she comes busting.
What time I go to bed?
She comes busting into my room, 6:30 in the morning. I'm sleeping. I was just waking up, really. And she was like, oh, that was a great podcast. That's when she watches our podcast. And she goes, that was a great podcast. And she starts rolling off like 3-4 different questions. I want you and Merle to talk about this and this and this. I'm barely waking up here. And I'm like, we're not a magic 8-ball, honey, you know? And so she's like, okay. I said, could you put it in the comment section? That way other people can see it, maybe interact with, add it on, but I'll also remember these things. So she never did. I'm thinking I might be getting a telegram here in about a week or two.
A telegram.
Yeah, she's just terrible with tech. So I remember one, though. Maybe the first one, because she's mentioned it twice or maybe even 3 times now. She goes, I want you guys to talk about the concept of hell. Does it exist or does it not? Maybe a second one was. I'm not positive, but I think maybe a second one was how long it's going to take us to recover economically from this COVID thing. And I'm like, I'm not qualified for that one. That's what I think I said, the magic 8-ball thing. Who am I? You know, you could talk to that one better, but why don't we talk about this concept of hell or no?
Okay.
Do you want to start or me? Because I've been
Sure.
thinking about this my whole life. I could.
You have?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, are you,
But
let me ask you, do you
mhm.
believe that there's a hell?
It's impossible. No, no.
You think it's impossible that there's a hell?
Absolutely.
Well, tell me why,
Sure.
because this is
Because,
fascinating.
well, it's great. This is the kind of thing
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can talk about and revisit for the rest of our careers.
Right, right.
So here's why: because you can't separate the happiness / pleasure from the pain and anxiety. If you put them together, all of that crap all is one, and you have whole. You just simply have whole. You have
Mhm.
complete. You have lack of anxiety. You have no expectations. You are where you want to be. All of that. So you can't send somebody to burn in agony for all of eternity, because within 10 minutes they're going to get numb to it. Especially within a week or whatever. In reality, if you burn somebody for 10 minutes or whatever, they're going to pass out,
Right, right.
from pain. So if you really wanted to torture somebody the most that you could, put them in anguish for eternity, you would have to give them bits of happiness and joy so that you could take it away from them, so that
Mm.
they can then suffer. Okay. So in other words, you have to give them glimpses of heaven in order for them to feel the pain and anguish. I believe that when we die, we are absolutely stripped of these expectations, anxieties, and negative emotions. And so we have a feeling. You hear this in every new near death experience. Okay, is that you have a feeling of nothing but unconditional love, and that is God. That is heaven. That is all of that to me. That's what happens when you die. Further, it gets very complicated about the judgment of who goes to hell, who goes to hell, who goes to heaven, when you get into different degrees of mental illness, and even degrees of consciousness with animals and things like that. So I think it's kind of like a somewhat adult version of Santa Claus, which I went on a rant about before, about I think it's terrible to tease or not tease our kids, but to feed our kids that line of Santa Claus. Why? So you'll be good. So you take my parental responsibilities away and put it on an imaginary fat guy. Just be good, you'll get presents. Well, I think the concept of hell is the same thing. You're
Mm.
going to die and be condemned to this imaginary place if you're not a good person.
Right,
And,
right.
and I understand that. It simplifies things, just like the concept of Satan. And I kind of struggle with that a lot, because I definitely feel that there are negative forces at work that
Right.
pull and that can be fed and can then pull harder. I get the want and need to personify it to make it simple, but I
Well,
don't think it's that simple.
you know what? I really love your take on the whole thing. It makes sense what you're saying to me, and I had struggled with that. Everybody has struggled with that. Nobody wants to
Yeah,
believe that there's a hell.
it's a tough one.
However, you brought up some really good stuff here, Barry. One is the concept of Satan, and it seems to me that people have a much easier time in this world believing that there are evil forces out there. Many people actually believe that over the fact that there's a benevolent God out there.
Mm.
But you can see in this world that there's definitely evil. There's people that seem to be under an evil influence. It's an easy thing for us to pick out and say,
Mm-hmm.
you watch the news and go, God, how could somebody do something? That's terrible.
Yeah.
Or how could these things happen? These are terrible things. And I think that, one of the things that I pick out of what you're talking about, and something that I used to struggle with, was, okay, if God is good, then how is it that he could want to send somebody to hell? I mean, that doesn't sound so good, and everybody's got faults. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you read in the Bible and you find out that one sin would cause you to go to hell,
Mm-hmm.
well, how that can't be fair. That doesn't seem right at all. But then when you really looking at the Bible in bits and pieces can be dangerous, because you can come away from the Bible and think, wow, God's kind of not a nice guy, and this is kind of unrealistic expectations. But looking at it on a whole, what you start to realize is that, first off, God did not create hell for people to go to. That was not the intent of hell whatsoever. There is a Satan out there who used to be an angel. His name was Lucifer. And God has angels that he created. They're created beings. And so you have a contingent in heaven where a third of the angels rebelled, led by Satan. Satan wanted to be God. That was what his goal was. That's what happened in heaven. This all happened long ago. And so Satan, in the very beginning of the Bible, Satan is in really the garden, and he's waiting for Adam and Eve to come into that garden of evil. And so what happens is Adam and Eve rebel. Eve bites into the apple. She gives it to Adam. Adam knew full well that he was not supposed to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and he did that. And what happened after that is everything changed. And when those things changed, we lived in a fallen world where Satan actually rules in this world. And that's why you see all these terrible things that are happening. Well, hell had already been created before that, and according to the Bible, and hell was made for Satan and his army, his angels. That's what Satan is for. It's a place of torment for them, not for people. What Satan had done is he fooled mankind, and his object is to drag people down into hell with him. So God's intention was never for people to go there. In fact, right away, right at the very beginning of the Bible, you see God creating a way for people not to have to go into hell with Satan. And it's really, the story of salvation is right there in chapter 3 of Genesis, where he talks about that Satan would bruise the Messiah's heel, and the Messiah would crush Satan's head. And so what happens right away in the Bible is that God prepares a way for people not to have to go into that torment. And if you really look at the Bible even more clearly, what the Bible is saying is that it's not about what you do. It's about being able to walk through that door of salvation, who is Jesus Christ. In other words, just relying on him as your righteousness, righteousness is really just right standing with God the Father, relying on him because he lived a perfect life. And then relying on that is what causes you to escape Satan's hold. And so it's not about you being good and you being righteous or anything like that. It's about the fact that, as everyone knows in John 3:16, so God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son so that we could be with him for eternity, that we could escape this whole thing. Is there a hell? Do I believe in that? Absolutely. There is a hell. And you can see hell on earth right now. It's happening. And so it's a hard concept to come by, but when you realize that God, the loving God, the agape love of God, is not a God that wants to send you to hell. It's a God that loves you so much that he was willing to be like you and come in the flesh and actually die a terrible death in your place to pay the price so that you don't have to, so that you can be with him. So I think that turns everything upside down from what we were just talking about, because man, it's not a whole lot of, it's not about God wanting to make you be good so that you can avoid hell. That's not what it's not about the Santa Claus theory at all. But you just said it doesn't for you.
No, what do you think hell is like then?
I think it's terrible. It's Jesus described it, where the worm doesn't die and the fire never goes out.
Yeah, that was
it's
kind of my
terrible place, and that's what he created for the angels that rebelled against him. It's not for you to go to. He doesn't want you going there.
Yeah, I understand. I understand all that sentiment. It doesn't make sense to me that it actually a place where you experience agony forever for the rest of your
It's not a
existence.
it's more of a spiritual thing. It's not like your body isn't you. You're a
Mhm,
spirit that lives inside of a body, and
mhm,
your spirit can experience this. Exactly what you said, Barry, is the people that have had afterlife experiences where they
mhm,
drop all of that pain and
mhm.
anxiety and misery. That's exactly what heaven is like. You're exactly right.
Oh, and I
How-
believe that. I believe in that totally. I just don't believe
However,
some of them are going to this other place that is the exact opposite of that. What
yeah.
happens when you get into different degrees of mental illness where people have varying degrees of control over their own behavior?
Well, the Bible's pretty clear about that, as well as that, if you have made that choice and really God's already chosen you, that it doesn't matter you could go into mental unhealth, and you're still going to go. You're not responsible for that.
Mhm.
You're going to go to heaven.
Yeah. I just really believe that everybody does go to heaven too, but maybe to varying degrees. I've heard that the theories on people with near death experiences that there's varying degrees of control that they actually have over their environment that seems to be based on how good they were or whatever here it was how developed their souls were at the time of them entering. Some of the stuff that I heard that resonated with me the most, that I think made the most sense, was that it jives with Buddhist philosophy and everything else, is that when you go there to heaven, you have your higher self there, which is it's the godlike version of you. And then there are varying degrees of you around that as well. And there's always going to be, probably not saying this right, but there's always going to be this facet of your personality or something that has to go back to the earth school and try to develop that part of itself
Mm.
to climb the ladder, so to speak, of
Right.
heaven,
Yeah.
as you know it. That kind of stuff makes all the sense in the world to me.
It seems to make worldly sense. I mean, here in the world, we have things that we're used to, and we live in a merit system here in the world, but the Bible doesn't teach that. And I believe what the Bible says. So I'm a Christian, so that's what I believe. The Bible teaches that your merits are the merits of Jesus Christ. So there's no level of acceptance that is a higher or a lower level. You're accepted in the beloved, just like Jesus Christ.
Mm.
And so there's no having to go back to earth and get some kind of new training or anything like that. It's the most unfair thing ever that you could come and just be yourself and then get the merits and rewards that Jesus Christ earned for you. It's the best deal ever, really, if you take a look at it that way. And that's how I see it. Being a Christian, I see it that way. It's very comforting for me to know that I can just be myself, mistakes and all.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes, I've mentioned on the show, I wake up in a bad mood.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my wife knows about that, and I might be all cranky or whatever, but God has already forgiven me for all of those things. And knowing that doesn't give me a license to go out and be a jerk.
Uh-huh.
Actually, it has the opposite effect. Knowing that is humbling to me
Mm.
and causes me to come to myself and go, how dare I be like that when Christ has forgiven me for all of these things? And I come back to my senses and realize that his life is on the inside of me and he is love. And not only do I have that on the inside of me, my cup overflows into
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
other people. It's not about me. It's about everybody around me. It's that agape love has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with everybody else all around me. And you, for example, like, I love you and I care about you. I care about your circumstances. I care about your life. I just care about you. I just, I could cry just talking about this and having this conversation with you, being, we believe different things, but from my point of view, I want you to have exactly what I have, which is that calm reassurance that even though there is a hell, I don't have to worry about that. And I don't have to worry about those things in my life. I'm good. I'm taken care of. And even if we don't believe the same thing, I still have those feelings. I just love you, man. I want the best for you because I love you.
Well, I love you too, my friend, my lifelong friend.
Amen.
I do with all my heart. And Lisa, I hope that wraps all that up for you. Merle, this could segue, if you wanted to go here at this point, this could segue into a note that I saw that you made. And it's more personal. It's about dealing with your feelings on the more professional end of things. Because you were just talking about having your faith and knowing having the reassurances that you have. Well, you've been going, and I don't know if that's what you want to talk about, or if you want to talk about something like Pelosi just announced that Biden's case is closed. She's heard all that she needs to hear. And because we are coming to the end of the show, so I just wherever you want to take it, wherever you want to take it.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. I think with the remaining 10 minutes that we have here, maybe we should go into that since you brought that up. The Biden thing. I think it's pretty interesting what's going on. I just want to be clear that I believe that everybody deserves to be heard. Obviously, in the Biden case, both of them can't be right. Right. I mean, there's a truth and then there's a not truth, and somebody's not telling the truth. We don't know who it is. Right. A lot of people would like to believe one way or another, but the way that the American system is set up in these cases is that you're innocent until proven guilty. Right.
And another thing, there's a statute of limitations on everything. And I'm going to bring you right back there. But I got to say, this is what drove me crazy, absolutely nuts with the Kavanaugh thing, is what the hell are you doing bringing out somebody's yearbook when he's, 55 years old or whatever, applying for a different job, and and trying to apply today's ridiculous standards, this MeToo movement, to something decades ago in the 80s or 90s or whatever. This is absurd. And
I agree.
And so don't freak out on me and tell me, oh my God, women need to be heard. No, they do. And they should have been at that time. But you don't bring this stuff up right now. But the Democrats have made that, brought that up. And I don't know how they just crushed the statute of limitations, our fundamental law system. I don't know how, but they established it, and now they made their bed. Now they got to sleep in it.
Well, I agree. I mean, it's like you can't have it both ways. And I agree with you that, we should be applying our legal system of you're innocent until proven guilty evenly. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what their gender is. It doesn't matter what their race is. But I think that the thing that's really coming out here is the sheer hypocrisy of how one party can apply the legal system to one side and not apply it to another side, or apply it to one gender and not apply it to another gender. And I think that's really the story. Really, if we were looking at it the right way, then Joe Biden deserves to have his day of somebody brings an accusation, he's innocent until proven guilty. But unfortunately for Joe Biden, he has advocated all the way up until now just the opposite. In fact, if you take a look at what's called Title IX, I don't know if you've heard of that.
I don't know what it is.
Title IX was something that they came up with under the Obama administration that actually applies to all of the colleges here in the United States. And what the basic premise of Title IX is that if somebody is to bring up an accusation against you as a college student, then you're guilty until proven innocent. And not only that, but if Title IX is not applied and the federal government finds out that Title IX is not being applied at that college, then the federal government will pull all funding from that college. And so as a result of that, it set up kangaroo courts within these college systems so that, and let's face it, most of the sexual assault or harassment accusations are leveled by women against men.
Sure.
It's very rare that you have a man that's leveling that type of a crime against a woman.
Sure.
And so these young men don't have, not only are they guilty before proven innocent, but they also don't have a right to legal counsel. And so they have no way of defending themselves. This has had the effect of ruining young men's lives.
Yeah.
Now,
before they even get started.
Now, if you take a look at it in reverse and you said you applied that to women and said, okay, wait, you are guilty. It sounds like you're lying and you're guilty until proven innocent. Then the whole world would come out and say, oh, that is sexist. That is so horrible. So, I mean, it's first off, it's an un-American standard. That's not what our legal system is built on. It's unfair to men. It makes them guilty without having a chance to defend themselves. And gosh, when you think about it, people come to the United States from all over the world to escape legal systems that are like that, because they're basically like that all over the world, except here in the United States. And yet the place where we want to grow our country the most is in colleges. It's just the opposite. Now, I bring it back to Joe Biden. Well, here's Joe Biden. Joe Biden was in charge of implementing Title IX. This was his baby.
Now you did not know that.
Now that's what I'm talking about. The hypocrisy here is so thick that he would say.
It always is.
I mean, and here's where the hypocrisy really is you and I both saw this interview last week where he was being interviewed by Mika Brzezinski on MSNBC. And I got to say, if people haven't seen that, you got to watch that. That was amazing. Cause I thought Brzezinski would be real easy to like throw some softballs up there. Right. Those were not softballs, man. Those were fastballs. And Joe Biden looked, he didn't look good on that whole thing.
No.
But the things she was needling him on were these archives that are in the University of Delaware. And he's not willing to open that up. And, you know, under Title IX, he would be guilty and out of the race. That's his rule. So I'm just saying this, that I don't believe in that rule. I think that's an ugly rule that is unconstitutional. I don't think that Joe Biden should have to live under that kind of rule, but he's the one that made that rule up. Just like you said, you made your bed, now you got to lie in it.
Yeah.
That's where the hypocrisy is, and it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
Dude, don't you think they also just slammed the door in the face of the MeToo movement?
Well, yeah. This is the really scary part, is that this sort of thing where Nancy Pelosi says that, you know, the door's closed on this, and Joe Biden is telling the truth. This is dangerous to women. I mean, think about how dangerous this is to women, especially women that don't agree with the leftist agenda. That means that you have two sets of justices here. You have justice for people that believe everything Nancy and Joe believe, and then you have justice for the rest of the people that don't believe that. And I'm telling you that this actually damages the rights of women here in this country. And I think that's a terrible and disgusting thing for people like my mother or my daughter. Yeah. I think this is something that we should be looking at in a more serious light. Why do we care so much who the president is if all of our rights are being thrown out the window?
Well, and this is coming from the party that likes to divide us up into individual races and sexes and then pit us against each other. I don't know. I think it's atrocious. And just to tell you that you have rights if you're on our side, and you may or may not have rights if you're on another side. They said something totally different the last couple of years, and turn their backs on it when it comes to Joe Biden. I think it's horrible.
Well, it's the do as I say, not as I do type of
Absolutely. It's
mentality.
ridiculous.
And we're seeing that even with the COVID-19 thing, we're seeing it all over the
Mm,
place where you've got the mayor of New York City saying you can't travel unless you have essential business that has to happen. And there we catch him on camera,
yeah.
18 miles away from his house going on a walk in the park.
Mm,
Or the mayor of Chicago who shut down all of the salons and hairstylists, and yet she's caught getting her hair styled, and then
yeah.
says that
Yeah.
she is a
Public
public
figure.
figure, and so she has to have this. But you
Yeah.
little
You
peons out
peons.
there,
Yeah, the peasants
come
don't.
on! I
Hey,
mean, it's crazy.
let me ask you, I want to get back to where I started with this. What I just don't, I can't wrap my head around, haven't heard anybody talk about it, is what about statute of limitations? Why? Okay, first of all, with the Kavanaugh hearing, I think they tried to bring it up because it was a position of such importance and of power. So therefore, the statute of limitations doesn't really apply. I think I remember something like that being thrown around. But again, in this case, why are we discussing this? I know the Democratic Party always wants to hail themselves as the moral authority, the virtuous party of people. So when it came to Kavanaugh, they could throw that out there. Okay, now when it
Yes.
comes to Biden, they don't know what to do with it other than say the door is closed on this. I think we need to really just all calm down and say, okay, two wrongs aren't going to make a right here. It was wrong then. It's wrong now. There's a statute of limitations for a reason. There's no way we can try this today. It can't be fairly tried today. Not
Yeah.
fairly.
I don't think there's going to be a trial. I think you're right that the
There can't
statute of
be.
limitations is
It's
up, and I
impossible.
believe that's already come out.
It's
But now
character assassination, is what it
you've
is.
got a different court here.
Yeah.
This is the court of public opinion now.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a man that's running for president who says that he stands for women's rights and has fought against sexual harassment, and Title IX
Yeah.
being one of the things that he's trumpeting as a result of that. I mean, here you have a guy who is actually claiming that he's a warrior for women's rights and holding up Title IX
Mm-hmm.
as evidence of
Mm-hmm.
this, which is absolutely ironic. I mean, are you kidding me?
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's
Total
so thick.
hypocrisy.
I mean, how do
Oh,
you swallow this? That's what
yeah.
I'm saying. And so I agree with you about the statute of limitations. I also agree that, I mean, I can't, it's hard for me to empathize, but if you're a woman and you have been, you know, assaulted by a highly respected politician, how hard is it going to be for you to come out into public and say that this has happened? I mean, you think
I would
the
say,
arrows that
Merle,
would
in,
come at you.
in 1993, it would be very difficult to come out and be taken seriously. Again, coming off the heels of the Monica Lewinsky,
Oh my gosh.
they ate the feminists ate her alive because they
Oh,
love Bill
they
Clinton.
did, including Bill's wife.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't
I
even
mean,
know what to
it's
say to
a
that.
tough thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the one in that position, but I'm just saying that anybody could find themselves in that position. And
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah.
looking for is justice here, and
Yeah.
what we're seeing is anything but justice happening.
Well, it's what's been going on for a long time. It's about character assassination because the election is coming up.
Right.
With Kavanaugh, it was about character assassination because people
That's right.
were so nuts about another conservative, being elected, so being appointed. So it's just dirty politics.
It is.
And again, I'm just going to repeat: two wrongs don't make a right. We need to rise above this stuff. We need to clean up our journalism integrity. We need to clean up our political integrity. But I'll tell you straight up, this country is so infiltrated by corporate money that I think all this stuff that we see on the surface in the media is more of a distraction than it is ever getting to any of the real problems.
I think you're right about that. And
Yeah.
not that I'm against corporate entities
I'm not
at
either.
all,
It's just
but
the degree of it.
I think that
They run this country. You know, every one of these people that get elected, that's why I like Tulsi Gabbard so much, is she would accept no corporate funding. And the Dems, they couldn't deal with that. She's not playing ball. You know, she's a woman, she's a person of color, and they still wouldn't back her. They instead back an old white guy.
well, I think you're making some great points here. And I also I believe that absolute power corrupts absolutely, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, we know that to be the case.
It's fact.
And
Historical
the fact
fact.
is that we have changed our Constitution through amendments that have actually allowed this type of corporate takeover where this money gets funneled into politicians that are in Congress, especially in the Senate. And it is a result of how we've changed certain amendments within the constitutions, in particular the 16th and the 17th, the 16th being where we changed the way that senators are brought into the Senate from the state legislatures appointing them to a popular vote, which and then the 17th amendment that brings in the IRS, which allows these people to have access to now trillions of dollars. And in order to stay in power, they simply say, look, we're going to give you money. We're going to give you all of this money if you elect me. And then they never come out. And that gives them absolute power, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when you start looking at the amounts of money that are inside of these corporations and now what they have access to, you're seeing what happens. And there's a solution to all this. We don't have time to talk about it today, but there is a solution without destroying capitalism, which is an agenda on the left.
A huge agenda.
And there are solutions. We can change this whole thing, and maybe we can talk about that on the next show.
Hey, that sounds good. Oh, good, because there's another thing I wanted to talk about, but it's a can of worms, and that's the what's happened with all the stimulus money, which I've not seen a dime of, by the way.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, boy, this was
an action.
I'm excited about the next show now.
I am too, because we we kicked the can down the road like 4 times.
Yeah, we did. But what a fun show we had today. We got to talk about dogs and these different jobs that are out there as well. Some of them are pretty exciting and everything. And just
guys, look those up. There's some good stuff.
I'm telling you. Yeah, there was some stuff I was interested in, actually.
Remember the park ranger when we talked about this kind of stuff before? It's like, I want to be a park ranger.
Me too. I just go out in the park. Come on.
Yeah, we're not talking about being outdoors right now. We're talking about how to maintain life indoors via Zoom.
Crazy.
It is. Hey, I'm ringing. Good time to go. Guys, thanks for staying with us. Please like and share our stuff and leave comments. Thanks a bunch, Merle. We'll see you next week.
All right, Barry.
All right, bye.